While most of us yearn for greatness, few of us have that fiery thirst that drives some people to achieve their desires at the cost of madness or self-destruction. Such was the case for Bellerophon, a brave young prince bored by the mundane existence of a mortal life. Like Icarius, he too shot for the lofty heavens, only to face the same fate. Bellerophon's story starts with an ill-fated hunt. A royal troop is out in the forest hunting. Bellerophon, a skilled fighter and bowman, releases an arrow aiming for a fleeing deer. However, instead of finding its mark, the arrow deflects and hits Bellerophon's brother square in the chest. It's a mortal wound, and in a few minutes, the young man bleeds to death before any life-saving measures can be considered. In between the horror of killing his sibling and the terror of his likely punishment, Bellerophon decides to flee his motherland. Luckily, he found refuge in Argos, where his kinsman, Protus, was king. Bellerophon soon settled into the daily rhythm of his new home. Given that he was a prince, his list of likable qualities was long, and he quickly became the darling of many a people in the court of Argos. One of those people who took a liking to the young prince was Queen Antaya. She desired him romantically, and with each passing day, the fire of her infatuation devoured her from the inside. Unable to contain herself any longer, she gathered up the courage and propositioned Bellerophon, only to be met with embarrassing rejection. King Proetus was his kinsman and a friend who'd taken him in during his time of need. Bellerophon couldn't even consider betraying him. But as it's written, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. With the rejection, Queen Antaea's infatuation turned into such unbridled hate that she loathed him more than she'd ever desired him, and she sought ways to destroy the young prince. Scheming, she accused Bellerophon of crimes he had never dreamt of committing. King Proetus was livid. After all, he had done. This is how Bellerophon repays his kindness? He had to be punished. Yet reluctant to punish him by his own hand, he sent him away to Lobates, king of Lycia, with a sealed message. Unbeknownst to Bellerophon, the sealed letter he'd been entrusted to deliver contained his death warrant. Blissfully ignorant of the fate that awaited him, Bellerophon journeyed gleefully to his destination. In Lycia, he was joyfully welcomed by King Lobates, who entertained his guest for several days without even inquiring about his mission. After a few days, Bellerophon suddenly remembered the sealed letter he'd brought with him and presented it to King Lobates with many apologies. As the king read the letter, his cheeks flashed red and he struggled hard to hide his thoughts. So far, Bellerophon had been an impeccable guest. Lobates didn't fancy taking his life. Nevertheless, he still had to do what King Proetus had asked of him. Pondering over the matter, Lobates settled on sending Bellerophon to attack the Chimera, the fire-breathing lion-goat dragon monster. Many a great man had taken up this noble quest, but none had ever returned alive. Lobates hoped the same fate would befall his guest and thus free him from his burden. Bellerophon was terrified, but ventured into his mission nonetheless. His sorrows were compounded by the fact that he'd fallen in love with King Lobates' daughter, the fair and stunning Philino. Be that as it may, chances were high he'd never set his eyes on her again. And so he went away, while cursing his luck, which seemed poised against him wherever he went. It was in this frustrated and resigned state that the goddess Athena found him while on her daily stroll. Taking pity on him, she inquired the source of his obvious dejection. Woefully, Bellerophon narrated the ill fate that had led him to the present moment. Hearing of his misfortune, Athena promised to help him, and conjured up a golden bridle with which Bellerophon could control Pegasus. Pegasus was a magnificent, winged steed who'd been born of the blood of Medusa's severed neck. White as snow and with angelic wings on the side, Pegasus was a horse like no other. He was immortal, faster than any other horse, and his hoofs could bring forth springs from dry rock. Only Apollo and the Muses had been privileged enough to ride this untamed beast. Remembering how Pegasus loved visiting the spring of Perine near Corinth, Bellerophon sought to waylay him there. After several days of agonizing waiting, he soon caught sight of the winged steed descending from the clouds. In wide curves like a bird of prey, the horse's flight made for a beautiful spectacle. Soon his feet touched the ground, and he set on grazing. Seizing his moment, Bellerophon timed just when Pegasus put his head down and then jumped on his back. Pegasus, who'd never been ridden by a mortal, bucked like never before. In a flash, he took to the skies and began ascending to dizzying heights. All his efforts, however, did little to unseat his determined rider. At the most opportune moment, Bellerophon thrust the bit from Athena's golden bridle between Pegasus' jaws, and the horse was instantly tamed. The young prince couldn't believe it. Here he was, the first mortal to ride the winged steed of the gods. For a moment, he savored his accomplishment as visions of glory clouded his eyes. Yet, remembering he had a pending quest to attend to, he quickly returned to his senses and guided the horse in search of the chimera. As luck would have it, it wouldn't take long for them to find it. Now the chimera was no ordinary beast. It featured the heads of a lion, a goat, and a dragon. From its mouths, it emitted fiery breaths that scorched everything in its path. Its strength, too, was unmatched. Nevertheless, all these attributes were no match for the conviction and courage that came from Bellerophon's delusions of greatness, amplified to new heights now that he was in command of the immortal horse of the gods. After a protracted struggle, he lined up his arrow with the beast, and this time, it found its mark. The monster that had claimed many a life of great men and wasted those of many innocents lay dead, soaking the ground with its blood. Bellerophon was ecstatic. With his valiant quest conquered, he returned to Labat's to report his success. While thrilled that the chimera was no more, King Labat's remained a troubled man. His plot had failed miserably, and the young prince had returned against all odds, elevated in glory. Still, he planned to fulfill King Praetus's request. As such, he sent him to fight the Amazons, a group of female warriors and hunters who were renowned for their physical agility, strength, archery, riding skills, and mastery of combat. Surely Bellerophon wouldn't survive this time, or would he? After a short while, the king received word of Bellerophon's victory. Outwitted yet again, Lobates set up an ambush to kill Bellerophon on his way back to Lycia. For this, he posted his most skilled and trusted men. But ever since coming into possession of the immortal winged horse, the favor of the gods had rested with Bellerophon. Single-handedly, he fought off his attackers and again showed up victorious at King Labate's court. Resigning to himself that the prince must be under the special protection of the gods, the king put a halt on all plans against his life. Even better, he decided to reward the young hero with the king's daughter's hand in marriage. With a beautiful princess wife, love, significant wealth, and great feats that would outlive you. What more could a man ask for? For many, this would be a dream come true. But not Bellerophon. The visions he'd dreamt of while fighting on Pegasus's back had left a hole in his heart, a hole too deep for anything in this mortal realm to satisfy. Egged on by his accomplishments and the fulsome flattery of his courtiers, the young prince fancied himself as an equal to the gods, and to fulfill his yearning, he wished to join them in their heavenly abode. And so, summoning his faithful Pegasus once more, the young hero mounted him. This time, they shot straight for the heavens, Bellerophon's eyes glistening with hallucinations of his impending glory. All his other feats would pale in comparison to this, he thought to himself as his heart swelled with pride. But high up above the heavens, Zeus was not amused by the unfolding scene. Thus, he sent a gadfly which fixed upon Pegasus and bit him viciously. Bucking, the horse flung off its overconfident rider, who wildly fell back to earth. Now, while such a fall would have undoubtedly killed anyone else, the knock merely deprived the young hero of his eyesight. For the rest of his days, he resigned himself to groping for his way and dreaming of the happy days when he rode the winged horse and accomplished mighty deeds. Today, some scholars theorize that Bellerophon simply represents the bright orb of day that rides across the sky on Pegasus, the fleecy white clouds, and slays the Chimera, the frightening monster of darkness. Driven from its home, the sun wanders the world on a triumphant quest which, just like Bellerophon's vision, ends in darkness. If you have enjoyed this video, make sure to smash the like button and subscribe for more content. It helps this channel reach more audience, which in return helps us create more videos for you guys. Don't forget to share and leave a comment too. Until next time, take care.